My name is Rosa Ronje, and I am the Director of Science Communications and Evidence Uptake at the African Institute for Development Policy. In this video, we are discussing on the recent developments of the focus on how Africa can use its young population to spur economic growth and tackle other development challenges. Actually, the African Union has adopted the demographic dividend as its development theme for 2017. And so in this video, I'm joined by experts from AFIDEP and University of Southampton. On my immediate right, I have Dr. Elia Zulu, who is the Director of African Institute for Development Policy. On my immediate left, I have Dr. Bernardo Nyango, who is a knowledge translation scientist at AFIDEP. And on my far left, I have Professor Nyumbani Madise, who is Professor of Demography and Social Statistics at University of Southampton. So I'll start with you, Dr. Elia Zulu. You have been on the forefront of helping African governments understand what the demographic dividend is, but also what they need to do to gain or achieve a sizable dividend. Perhaps we should start with you telling us, in simple terms, what is the demographic dividend?
Yeah, so when we talk about the demographic dividend, we are talking about the economic benefits that countries can get from investments that they make, resulting in a reduction in birth rates. So what happens is if you're in a country where people are having many children, 4, 5, 6, 7 children, it means every 2 parents are having many children. And the more children you have, it means that there are fewer workers, and it's hard for them to save money and invest into the future. So when we talk about the demographic dividend, we're talking about a situation, the benefits that a country can make when the country moves from having more dependent children who are not working, to a situation where now you're having more workers than the children. Because now when you have more people in the working age population, it means that they have fewer children, they can save more money. That's at family level. But even at government level, it means that governments now are spending more money to invest for the future. So that change is what we mean by the demographic dividend. But the most critical point is that these benefits are not automatic. They result from investments that governments have to make. And the magnitude of the dividend itself is actually enhanced by the other investments that the government makes in education, because when you have more workers, the workers need to be well educated, skilled for them to produce more and propel further economic development, but there should also be jobs for them. So the economy needs to be reformed so that it's creating enough jobs, it's growing fast, and at the same time the population needs to be healthy, because if you have a big working age population that is not healthy, then they are not going to be as productive as possible. So we're talking about the benefits that a country that is starting from a point of having high death rates, gains when we invest to change that, and then have more children, have more workers than children, but that population becomes more productive in terms of having a more quality, a population with better skills and economic vibrance and so on.
So a big thing there is for countries to really focus on seeing how they reduce the number of children that families are having.
Initially, it's that reduction in number of births, but also in child survival. So if you improve child survival, people are having fewer children. That's what opens the window of opportunity, because that's what changes the age structure of the population from one dominated by children, dependent children, to one that is dominated by workers, who then, if they are economically enabled, they'll produce more and accelerate economic growth and development.
So from the way you talk, I think I also need to move the discussion to Professor Madise. Perhaps ask her, it seems like the demographic dividend means countries investing in different sectors. But I'm thinking that in the face of limited resources, what one sector or 2 sectors that African countries need to prioritize to really be able to achieve or harness a sizable dividend?
It's very difficult to choose just 1 or 2 areas where you can invest in, but I'll try my best. And by just choosing 2, it doesn't mean that the others are less important. But what is important for me is actually making sure that our young people actually get a decent education. They get a decent education, but also they have the skills so that when they go into the job market, they are actually benefiting the employers by being very productive and being very efficient. At the moment, we do have a problem of still low levels of education, particularly among women. And with low levels of education, that means that we do have a sizable proportion of our population who are actually perhaps not contributing as much economically.
So education
is really important, and we are really looking at making sure that both boys and girls actually have high quality education. The other important area for me is really investing in health, because you do need a healthy population, and we do need to make sure that, for example, our young people are protected from scourges like HIV, even as non-communicable diseases becoming particularly important in Africa. We do need to make sure that we can maintain that good health. Because a healthy person actually can feed themselves. A healthy person, when they are educated, they can actually think of things that they do that actually bring resources into the family as well as into the economy as a whole.
So education and health. If countries have to prioritize one thing in the midst of limited resources, education and health are key. Okay, moving to you, Dr. Onyango, just to ask, you have been leading the efforts in various African countries, kind of trying to guide countries with evidence on understanding the dividend, what it means, but also guiding them in the priorities they need to make. So in these countries, as you engage with them, what are some of the easy things or the low-hanging fruits that countries can start doing even as they move or plan to engage long-term or make long-term investments?
So Rose, what I can tell you in our engagement with all these countries, one thing that is clear is that governments know what the problems are, because the problems and their solutions are reflected in the policy documents. They know where they want to be. They have these long-term visions for where they want their countries to be. So some of the low-income countries, they want to become middle-income countries, and they have in their documents, the strategies that need to be worked on so that they get to that place. But I think the missing link is that a switch from the policies to the action.
The actions they need to be taken.
So part of it, it's really a bit of a black box for us to understand exactly what is happening. We know some of it is governance issues, but I think even to the extent that we are just able to strengthen monitoring and evaluation and performance management systems to make sure that these policy documents are not just left to rot on the shelf, but rather pushed to the next level, then we would definitely see some changes. For instance, what Professor Matisa is talking about, education and health, they're well reflected in this document. The issues,
so
what needs to be tackled.
Putting in the money.
And that probably is the more difficult part in terms of, as we say, you need to invest resources in these areas. So to the extent that our government should also, at times when we think about these new development paradigms, such as the demographic dividend, we are waiting for intervention from outside rather than from within. And I think if we just worked a little bit harder in working with the little resources that we had, avoid the wastage, I think we can make some strides.
So avoiding wastage, moving beyond just having policies. Just if you have something to add on what Dr. Ben said on the easy or low-hanging fruits that countries need to start doing immediately.
Yeah, I think there's the point about what countries can do, and I think they realize that they actually need to focus on putting the money to design and implement programs that will actually move from policy to action. But I just want to note that I think one thing that the demographic dividend paradigm has brought to the table is really the realization among policymakers of the urgency with which they need to address the issue about having high child dependency. So a lot of people were holding the view that, or many politicians tend to say, oh, you promote family planning will stop our population from growing. Look at China is big, they are successful. But the point is that part of the evidence we put on the table is to show that even when your birth rates come down, like from 4 to 2, your population will continue growing for another 60, 70 years. So our populations are destined to grow. The main point now is that let's invest in the human capital, because it's by turning this big population, the youthful population, into, by improving the skills that Professor Madisi was talking about, education, health, and so on. If you do that, then Africa will be a big force to reckon with, because we have the numbers, it's youthful. Now, if you turn that into a quality, productive population, that's what will really get us achieve our long-term development goals.
Let me just follow on that. What do you see as the significance? So the African Union has declared 2017 as the theme as demographic dividend. What's the significance of that for African countries?
The significance of that is that, by declaring it the theme of the African Union, it means every country now is looking at that, because what happens at the African Union, every president has to go there and talk about the issue, how they are thinking about it in their country. So it's actually become a very, very hot topic. And in a way, by doing that, the African Union has actually gotten countries to say, you have to do something about it. And I think already our experience working across the continent is that every country now is beginning to say, hey, we need to do something about the demographic dividend. So it's a very, very important opportunity for, especially technical people, because if all the presidents buy this issue, then there's a good chance that the political will that has been missing to address some of these issues now will be there. And if the technical people put in place good programs to help address the challenges, that we can now make the progress.
Moving to you, Professor Madisi, and just following up. So there seem to be a lot of focus on governments, but what should young people do? Because they seem to be an important group in this paradigm. What should they do on their own?
Well, I think that youth need to believe in themselves, to be empowered. I think they need to have the I can do attitude, because the reality is that the governments are really not in a position to employ everyone. So young people need to start thinking about, what can I do? Can I be an employer myself? And also, how can I help develop my country? How can I help develop my continent? And for that, we do need empowered youth. And we adults can help, the community can help. We need to actually make youth believe that indeed they matter, they're important, and their ideas also matter. So when we get to that point, I think self-belief is very important for actually getting people to think, be outside the box, to be innovative, and to actually prosper.
So finally, I think I'm getting back to Dr. Onyango. So again, your experience with these countries, there seem to be, over the years, there have been different development paradigms coming and going, and I fear that the demographic dividend might be one of them. So are there really signs that, African countries 40 years later can actually achieve some dividend?
What I can say is it may look like a difficult task, given when we look at all the problems many of our countries have. But we need to look at the examples of within the continent that have been successful and see, or at least shown some successes, and see how did they get to where they are. The likes of Mauritius, the likes of Cape Verde, for instance. You find a country like Mauritius today, the GDP per capita has grown to about almost $10,000 US per capita.
In a period of power.
So by the 60s, they were probably all under 500 with most of these other African countries. There have been also some countries, such as Tunisia, for instance, where we've seen, because remember, the key thing is, first you have to see that change in the age structure and have more people in the working age population. So these countries that I've mentioned, Cape Verde, Mauritius, Tunisia, they have undergone that transition. So they've had more workers. So really, what you see is that when you have that age structure with more people in the working ages, fewer dependents, definitely you're going to reap some dividend. What is key then is that we want to see who can maximize their dividend. And Mauritius have done well on that. And Tunisia, maybe not so much, but their GDP per capita, for instance, is much higher than, say, for Kenya, probably 4 or 5 times. 4 times, it's about $5,000 per capita. But the problem is they did not invest in their people enough.
At the right time.
So, when the Arab Spring happened, for instance, this germinated out of the problem of youth unemployment. And it triggered a big crisis. So we need to keep our eye on the ball, make sure that we are making those investments in the different sectors. Yes, we need to prioritize, but it can be done. It can be done. Though some of our countries are still a long way to go off because of the very high fertility rates that they still have.
So you're telling us that actually signs and the African countries are already making some progress in achieving their dividend.
Exactly.
So thank you very much, Dr. Onyango. Thank you very much, Dr. Zulu and Professor Madise, for these very good insights. I think as Africans, we want to believe that, our countries are not just embracing the paradigm, the dividend, that they are going to walk the talk, put in the money, implement programs, and, tackle the big development challenges on the continent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.